Hey everybody, ever got lost? Well, probably not, given sat-nav, mobile phones and really good maps. But in the 17th, 18th century, that was far from true, because of course people were travelling long distances. Travelling a short distance, well, that's not an issue, just look, you can see where you're going. Travelling a long distance is a very different story, and if you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going to, you can end up in one place thinking you're in another and name an entire continent after a country that you completely missed. Now, there are two things you need to know when you're travelling a very long distance on something like the Earth. One is where you are this way. That is the latitude. Now, that's not actually very difficult, because if you look up at the sky, the stars will change depending where you are in that direction. You can guess by accurate instruments and just looking at the sky. The real issue is when you're going this way, which is the longitude, because if you look anywhere from there, well, relatively speaking, the stars are all the same. So it's a real issue about knowing where you are. And it turns out that the way to solve that is essentially really accurate clocks, because the only thing that changes going that way is time. So if you have a really accurate clock, you can work out where you are in longitude. Now, it's such a problem. The British Navy offered a prize called the Longitude Prize to work out a way of being totally accurate using clocks to work out where you are on here. So when you set off from where you wanted to, you ended up going to where you wanted to, rather than a completely different country. And that started an obsession with clocks and timekeeping. Now, clocks in the sort of 17th century weren't brilliant. They were wrong by about 15 minutes every day or so, which is not great when you're trying to do something like that. Then the pendulum came along. Now, the pendulum is really a stupid thing. It's like a plumb bob. It's just a weight on a bit of string, and when it swings, it has a peculiar characteristic that it doesn't matter how long that swing is, it takes the same time to travel through the distance it's travelling. And that, plus longitude, started a huge craze with pendulums. And pendulums became something of a cause célèbre in the world of science. And it was a French mathematician, Foucault, who used a pendulum to demonstrate that the Earth in fact rotated, because the pendulum has precession. Now, pendulums from then, and being a cause célèbre, have been of absolute fascination, because if they swing, they will stop due to friction and air resistance. If you could remove the friction and air resistance, you would in fact have something that would swing forever, or a perpetual motion machine. That's kind of cool if you think about it, and of course there has been the search for that. Now, one of the issues with that, of course, if you start taking energy out of the system like that, it's still going to stop. But there is energy in that system, and it makes you think, is there a way that we could get that energy out of a pendulum system to, of course, generate? So, I have this. It's a free weight from building up my muscles so that I look a hunky kind of guy. And I've got a whole bunch of these, and of course it looks just like a plumb bob and just like a pendulum, and makes you think, could we use that as a pendulum? So turning to my trusty Tinkercad and 3D printer, I printed this. This is just a bracket that holds that weight, there we go, and has a screw thread on there, and I've got another bit with a screw thread on it and a bearing. Let's put a rod between those and see what happens. Okay, this is what we've got. There's my pendulum, which is my free weight for building up stronger arms and a bigger body. And I put it onto this bit of 8mm threaded bar, and right at the end we've got a little pivot where I've got some bearings, and I've got this. This is actually our hamster cage generator we built absolutely ages ago, disassembled, and I've kept the ring, and at the ring I've got a pivot point right there. Then on the floor we've got a coil with an LED in it. What I'm going to do is hang this on there and get it to swing. Okay, let's set that swinging. That's awesome. Okay, so that is going to swing for absolutely ages. I mean, I'm not sure how long, but I believe it's something like 12 hours is the maximum or something. I'm not sure. But the time of the swing is fixed by the length of the rod. The mass that we're moving there is going to be the inertial energy that we're using to do this. Now, obviously, I've got one coil, and if we put a whole load of coils on the arc of swing, then we would generate more. But clearly, as a concept, using a pendulum as a generator works.